Welcome back to the channel, everybody. I'm Trevor with Maker Experiment, and in today's video, we're going to be making some magnetic bookmarks because I saw it somewhere else, I thought it was really cool, and I want to try it for myself. Let's get into it. If you want to make this project yourself, I will leave a link to all of the materials in the description below. At a high level, you're going to need some magnets. You're going to need vegetable tan leather. If you're going to be cutting it on a laser, you have to have vegetable tan leather. If you're going to be cutting it using traditional leather working tools, you can pretty much use whatever leather you want. You also need stitching material and needles and a few other things for leather working. I will link everything below if you want to make this yourself. The design for this bookmark is one that I created myself. If you are interested in getting that, I will leave a link in the description below if you would like to support the channel. Now that we covered a few of the basics, let's jump over to the computer and I will show you the design. Here's the design for the bookmark itself. The blue circles are the diameter of the magnets that I am using. I did get these magnets off Amazon. The red circles, which are kind of hard to see, these are the stitching patterns, so these are little holes that the laser will cut for me to be able to stitch this up. And then the black line on the outside is going to be the outer border of the entire bookmark, and this is going to be the shape that gets cut out. Now, I'm not going to dive too deep into the details, but I'll send this over to the laser. You can engrave things, so designs, logos, things like that, into the bookmarks. I might do that for a couple of these, but real quick, I just want to show you how I have this set up. So I use color mapping, and when this comes in, I have blue. I'm not going to machine any of that, so I'm going to turn that off. The red is going to be the stitch pattern. I actually want that to be first, but you'll see that I cannot drag and drop because one says engrave, one says vector. On the EPILOG machinery, you have to engrave before you cut. So I need to change this to a vector, and then I can drag it below the red. I want the stitch pattern to cut before the entire shape to make sure that they get aligned properly. So for the red, I'm going to go into some settings that I have in my library. I have one for about 1/8 of an inch of leather, which is about 2 to 3 ounces, which is a leather thickness rating. So I'll click import there. So you'll see that it's 20% speed, 100% power, and 10% frequency. I'm going to use the same setting for the black. All right. So keep in mind that these settings are for the machine that I'm using, which is an EPILOG Fusion Maker 30 watt. So these are all in relation to that specific model and wattage. If you try to use these settings for a different machine of a different wattage, keep that in mind. You might have to adjust them for what you're doing. So what we're gonna do is I have a few different leathers. I have some yellow, I have blue, and then I also have purple. So I'm going to take these and I'm gonna try to make a couple of two-tone versions because I just wanna see how they turn out. I might add my logo to them as well, just for a little bit of added detail. But let's head over to the laser. We will cut them out and then I will sew them up and show you how they turn out. Here are all of my pieces. So I have a yellow one that says books are magical. I did get this graphic off of Creative Fabrica, so I will leave a link in the description below for that. And then I have my own Doctor Who inspired design that I drew up a long time ago. And then the blue ones are the same things, just on the blue. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to actually try to secure the magnets to the leather with just some CA glue. Now when you use your magnets, you have to make sure that they are mating, and then you pull them apart and flip them over. That way when this closes, they will actually link together. So I'm just going to put a drop of glue in the middle and try to line that up the best that I can. This might be a little bit of a tight fit with the stitch pattern. So if you want a little bit more play here, you can expand that stitch pattern space. And then I'm going to do the same thing on this side. Now the next thing I'm going to have to do is add leather adhesive to the leather pieces. So we're going to go around the rim, try to avoid the stitch pattern itself, just try to hit the edge of this. I am using this one is called Eco Weld for the adhesive. And then I have a silicone glue brush to make sure that I don't get any onto anything else, as well as this is super easy to clean. Just try to take your time with this. And then I'll do the same thing on the other side. And then you'll repeat the same process for the other one. Once you do that, you're going to let this dry for just a second to get a little bit tacky before you connect these two together. So I'll wait here a minute, we'll do this one, and then I'll do this one probably off camera, and then show them to you at the end. Now that this one's a little bit tacky, we're going to go ahead and try to join them together. Now keep in mind, I did make this pretty tight spacing around the magnet. I might have needed to make it a little bit better, but we're going to try to connect it and then press down on both sides to try to make this more even. And just go all the way around it, making sure to press it together evenly so all the edges match. So far, that's okay looking. We'll clean up the edges when we are finished with the stitching. And then you'll do the same to the other one. So I'm gonna do this one off camera, and then we'll start stitching them up. Once you have them glued together, I typically take one of the stitching awls, and I go around and poke through every set of holes just to make sure everything's lined up. So I am going to go ahead and do that. So you just line it up with the hole, you punch it through and make sure it comes through both sides. If I can get this on camera, like that. So just go around the whole thing, make sure that works. That way this will make your stitching much easier. I am going to do this off camera because it's going to take a minute. Now that I have both of these ready, I am going to need 2 needles for this. And for one, I'm going to use yellow thread, and the other I'm going to use purple thread. So I'm just gonna measure this out. Typically when I measure it, I over measure because I don't want to run out of it. So I'll typically measure whatever I need to stitch, and then I'll usually use about 3 or 4 times as much just to make sure I don't run out in the middle of my project. That should be enough. All right. So there's my yellow thread, and then I'll measure the same for the purple. Now we'll go ahead and start threading. So I'm not going to walk through how to thread the needle or anything like that. There are other videos for that. I do have one that I did early on that will walk you through how to do the stitching part. So I'm going to go ahead and get the needles ready, and then we'll start stitching this up. Now that we have it secure in the stitching pony, let's stitch it up to music, because this is going to be boring. I just finished the stitching on the first one, so here is how it turned out. So you can see the engraving, books are magical, little ghost reading a book, and then the yellow stitching all the way around. And then the blue side, the engraving's a little tough to see, but gives a little bit of contrast with the yellow stitching. But overall, I like it, and it does function as intended. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and stitch up the other one, which is right here. So we're going to stitch this one up, then we will finish the edges on both of them and see how well they work with an actual book. I am going to stitch this one off camera because you don't need to watch it twice. I quickly want to mention that I do have a community for laser business owners. It's at lasersmadesimple.com/community. It is completely free. You can go in there, share the projects that you're working on, get help with problems that you're having, and overall see what is going on and talk with other laser owners. And if you're interested in group lives and the classes that I'm putting out, you can go to lasersmadesimple.com/membership, where I am putting more detailed information on how to make projects, as well as do group lives where we are on Zoom and we can talk about your problems that you're having, any questions you may have, and you get that dedicated group live time with me to ask anything that you want. But with that, let's go finish the project. Here are the 2 bookmarks. So what I'm going to do is just take this little sanding pad and run over the edges before I finish them up. If you're wondering, this is a sanding pack that I got that has different grits in it. I'm just using the highest one, which is, well, I guess lowest one, which is 1500. Okay, I'm going to take a shop towel and just run it around the edge. And I'm doing that to capture all of the debris from the sanding. All right. I'm going to go ahead and do that again with the other one. And now it's time to finish up the edges. Now that they're sanded, I'm going to use some Tokonol. Almost all of this stuff you can get at District Leather Supply. Take a little bit on my finger and then just go around the edges like so. Do it cleaner than I am though, I'm making a mess. Go all the way around. The magnets work. And then take the burnisher and just run it along the edge. And then the last step that I do is I take some leather conditioner. So this one is Smith's. Just get a little bit on a shop towel. Like so. And then just go over the entire leather piece. And this will help get rid of any kind of debris that you might have had from the laser operations or from sanding, things like that. All right. That's what you do. So I'm gonna go ahead and do this one as well. And then we'll wrap up the video. All right, so I have a book here. We're gonna test this out. So I'm just going to open up a few pages, put it in, and it does, don't know why there was a Crayola thing in there, but it does hold. So that's the cool part is if I shake this, the magnet doesn't come off. That was the whole purpose of this project. So they do work, and in my opinion, they look pretty cool. That's gonna do it for this video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. I thought it was a pretty cool project. If you want any information on the materials I used or the design, you can look at the description below and everything should be there. Be sure to check out my Instagram @MakerExperiment where I share things along the way. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so that you know when I come out with new videos. But I want to thank you for taking the time to watch this, and I'll see you in the next one.